been doing is restoring mortuary poles from our old winter village in Tuxacan. Our city forefathers back in the 20s and 30s had, under the CCC program, had with the Forest Service, had gathered together and put together the park here and chose 21 of the most important ones out of 142 or something like that. And they're really significant and important to every member of our people here in Klawock. Every family has a tie, if not a direct tie, as an in-law tie to them. And so it's an important focal point for our people here in Klawock. They're representations of our clans, and it's like your headstone, especially these ones from Tuxacan. They show not only the crests that belong to a certain family or an individual, or an oral history that may go back to the time of migration that a certain clan owns. And so when a high-ranking person does, pass on, his nephew has one of these here poles erected with the histories of their people.
When you look at the whole carving program as a whole, what it's done is it's created a baseline for us to, I think the way we say it is reawaken our cultural activities, reawaken our ceremonies. We own another 122 poles out of Tuxacan, which is our winter village. Mm-hmm. And we have permission from our bosses, the city council and the mayor, to go out and carve or recarve those and replicate those poles. So if you figure you could do about a half a pole, maybe one pole a summer, we have a lot of carving left. So this building here will, for us, will make that opportunity happen so that we can continue this, so that my great-grandchildren will know what it's like to throw a potlatch for a totem pole to go up.
My title is Culture Bearer Hitzlatuwu. I'm in charge of everything about the Ganachadi here in Klawock and in Ketchikan that has to do with our history and the history of everybody around us. That's my job. I work with the Hitzati. Some people say the chief. I support everything about this endeavor by the city of Klawock because it gives good feelings to the people.
From the outside world looking in, you see a totem pole going up, and that's all you see. In our eyes, we see a whole lot more going on.
Sure. adjust the pole. 2, 3. Slow, slow, get it into place. Straps. Whoa, tension, keep tension. Steady tension, no pulling.
Those that put this on, Lord God, the city, and bless John Rowan, Lord. We ask this in your precious name. We thank you for the food in Jesus' name.
You know, in our culture, when you sponsor a potlatch, the absolute worst thing you could do is send them away without a full belly. It would take them a year to prepare for a party. And the whole time they're doing that, they're gathering food.
Right.
So that when their guests came, they could feed them well and send them home with food. I sat down with the cooks as one of the main coordinators of the party, and I said, how many cases of greens do you want, which is the beach asparagus that you folks put up? And they said, well, we know how much work goes into that. We know the process, so why don't we just go with 3 cases, 1 case each night. And we'll just add it, mix it in with our salads, and we'll call it good. I said, okay, 3 cases. So my wife and I and my kids went out and we picked about 2 cases worth and donated it to the party. So the next day, Joel drives up.
For those of you that don't know me, my name is Joel Buchanan. My mother's name is Ta'atz. Her mother's name is Steek Shun. Her mother's name is Ta'atz. Her mother's name is Kintley. I'm Tanta Kwan Ganahati Yanwalashi Hit. I'm from the Drift to the Shore House from the Tongass people. Raven Moati.
Joel drives up, backs up the truck, and in comes 19 cases of greens. And so I got a hold of the cook, and she came. We had a meeting actually the next night. We had a meeting, one of our planning meetings, and I said, oh, by the way, over in the corner is 21 cases of greens. They said, and I mean, literally the whole planning committee's jaw hit the floor. And they were like, 21? I said, yeah, the church brought us 19, and we have 2 from my wife and I almost feel bad I only brought you 2.
To be able to just reach in and sow love. There's no strings attached. Here's your food. We want to help. We're honored to stand with you.
Now we have enough that what we will do with it is we'll put, thank you for attending the party, and what we don't use to cook, we're going to give to our elders as gifts at the end of the party.
Wow. That's
so, it goes back to exactly the way it was supposed to be done.
We sure have enjoyed the food here.
So glad, because that's the goal.
I would like to take this time on behalf of the people at Klawock, our city council, I'd like to welcome you to Klawock. Thank you for accepting our invitation. For the chief, Klawock.
like the 1930s when the previous generation of totem poles were going up. No one would celebrate, really. It was just the people that carved it, put it up. All right, we're done. We're going home now. And being taught, I guess, again, throughout the years with my great-grandmother and other elders from this place, we just kind of learned, like, this is something important. It's special. This is something huge. You just treat it as such. That's why we're having such a good time right now, because we're finally done and we're celebrating as a community that we could do this, that we could restore our culture.
I was thinking back about the missionary work that was done here at the turn of the century, way back, which is what, when you folks approach me, which is what you're looking at, trying to change the face of that.
Like around my great-grandmother's time, she passed away when she was like 90, and she was a little girl, like that's the boarding school era and all the missionaries coming in and whatnot, and she was beaten for speaking Tlingit.
The assimilation process left a lot of people hurt. It left a lot of people feeling disconnected from the environment, from their culture, from their families.
For 150, 200 years, the missionary's been coming and saying, change and be like me. And by the way, we're going to take your language, your blanket, your totems, your identity.
And so we went through this kind of like downward slope because of the whole boarding school era where our culture died out. It was literally almost gone here.
And a lot of people turn to alternative things to help fill that gap. Drugs, alcohol, move away, will become something else in some other community.
I heard some of my other buddies that are in the business, they called it the dark period in the arts and the culture.
And all up and down southeast Alaska, our beautiful totem poles were burnt.
Thankfully, there were elders and people at the time that held on to what we have now.
I think the Foursquare is doing well by coming in and working with the local communities and doing things that we want or we would like, fulfilling some of our dreams rather than coming in and saying, you should be like me. And I really appreciate that.
You see it as us respecting the totem pole and the clan ownership and the stories and everything that way. And you're falling in line and being part of that process. Right.
That's the way it should be done. That's the way the original church did it. So I think that's how we should be doing it, but through the prayer and the love and the sharing of the word.
It's who we are. The clan houses, the totem poles, the dances, it's all tied to our ancestors. Doing things that hopefully we're doing it somewhat right and continuing to pass that on to our kids and our grandkids.
Like last night, we were all sitting down and you had grandmothers with their grandchildren, and the grandchildren were right next to their grandmothers, their nanas, cutting vegetables, getting ready for the party, putting them in Ziploc bags so we could put them in the refrigerator. It's going back to the way our life used to be. When we started this carving program in the shed way back there, it started a process. It started a groundswell, if you will, that that now is in full swing. We have families that have contacted us that are coming home that haven't been home in 20, 30 years. We have spoke to a lady the other day that she was in tears on the phone because her family wasn't communicating. And now here at this totem pole raising party, they're all having a family reunion, and we're talking about some people that haven't spoke to each other in 6, 8, 10 years. And so the residual effects, the byproduct of carving a totem pole goes wide and deep in our culture now, today. Whereas, like I say, about 20 years ago, shoot, even 10 years ago, a totem pole party went on here and I didn't even attend it.
Wow.
And I worked for the city, and that was in 2002. And so nowadays it's like, you know, everybody wants to be a part of this process. Everybody's looking here. We've had people a year ago scheduling rooms to be rented so that they could be here and make sure they were here. So, you know, the difference is that it has made in our community are pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Three years ago now, my family and I, my wife and I, and my kids, we started Indian dancing with the Hinyaquan dance group. And one day we're driving home from practice, and my youngest boy says to me, "Dad, how old were you when you started Indian dancing?" And I had to think about that for a quick second, and as I'm driving down the road, I said to him, "Well, son, you got to remember, you started Indian dancing before I did."
One thing that was really encouraging to me to watch during the event this week was when there was an invitation, tons of little kids would go. They were proud to be up there. There was a time that I didn't really see that as much.
when I was working with John. It is kind of hard to maneuver around there because there's just such a tiny space, and totem poles are obviously really huge.
I'm a former Marine, and I don't whine. If it rains inside my building, it rains.
And the floor is the ground, so it's all on level, and you could fall easy.
But if somebody's going to offer to build a whole brand new one that doesn't have a leak, shoot, we're going to jump on it like nobody's business, And so it just establishes an area or a place that is so awesome and so phenomenal.
Just having a good place to do it, a comfortable place to work, and to be able to be efficient by leaving your tools there and leaving your project and not having to battle the elements to get your work done. It makes a big difference in how much work and teaching you can get done.
The fact that the city of Klawock just wanted to give John a new carving shed, that's awesome. Just thank you, a big thank you. Because I really think it's he deserves it. It's something that he needs to keep this thing going for as long as he can.
Not just for me, but for my town and for the future generation of carvers that are going to come along and take my place someday.
It's just a place where we can preserve our culture, and the only commandment with the promise is honor your fathers. And your mothers, that it may go well with you, and that you live long on the land that the Lord your God has given you. So, to me, every time we practice our culture, every time we speak our language, and every time we follow their example by our faith in Jesus and studying the Word, we are honoring our fathers and our mothers. So it's important to us to be able to preserve that culture and practice that and teach it to the next generations.
You're going to have an awesome facility to work out of. And so seeing it now, I can see that it should flourish and continue to flourish. And then same with the friendship with the Foursquare missionary groups and church.
You guys come here from your busy place. You come all the way here to Klawock, this tiny little village, to build us a carving shed. That is awesome. Thank you to everyone that actually works there, because you guys are busy, you got your own lives, but you're putting aside your lives right now to make a new carving shed for us, and that's something it's more than I could ever ask for, so I really appreciate it.
This is just a building without its story.
Right.
See?
Yeah.
And that's what makes our culture so rich and deep, is that we hold on to that story. And like I've shared with you before, you're part of that story. You're part of the story of this process, of this building. Our elders speak in metaphors. Our elders, you ask them a question, is it raining out? And you're going to get a story. So that's kind of how our life is, culturally speaking. In fact, even this necklace that I wear, this was a Christmas present given to me by a friend of mine. But in most cultures, you leave it at, this was a Christmas present.
Oh, yeah.
In our culture, we have to tell you where the tooth came from, where the beads were dug up, and why he gave it to me, see? And I know all of that history of this pendant that I wear.
Yeah, well, it gives great meaning to the gift then.
Well, not only that, but it adds depth to the culture, because everything has its story. When we tell the story of this carving shed in 10, 20 years, it'll be, this is where the wood came from, this is how this happened, this is where this came from. Oh yeah, and the labor was provided by the church group. See? And it's, at that point, you're woven into our history of this building.
Yeah.
And future years to come, when we're carving our totem poles and having our parties, where are you guys carving these? Oh yeah, the carving shed. Remember the one the church group built? Oh yeah, see, so you're integral in that story being told. You're layered in the fabric of our history now. And that's part of, like I say, a simple little thing is a Christmas gift. has its story.
Right.
And that's our culture. That's who we are, and that's how we remember where we've come from.
Other than just, I'm Sydney Isaacs, I'm more than that. I'm Yusakajik. I'm my great-grandmother, and I'm whoever gave her that name, and for all the Yusakajiks in the past, I am them. I am speaking for them right now, is what the elders would say anyway. So if you take away our culture, if anything happens to where it just dies, then that's just it. We've lost everything. And that is something that's just devastating. That's terrible. But with this stuff, orally, see, that must be the key to everything, because I've already been taught it. I've already been told about it, and we have evidence to support that. So I don't think it will ever completely go away. As long as we keep doing what we're doing here, I think we're going to be okay.
I told one of my friends today, this is how we do it here on the island. We bring out our very best for our guests. No matter if we cleared our cupboard out, it was for our guests.